believed him. Apparently, he's very important to himself.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
Fellowship in Israel. Went to Columbia, started a pro-Israel campus group, which he tried to get professors fired in favor of Palestine. He started the Just project. And
for no reason, for fun, perhaps.
You find some Nick Fuentes live.
In October, I was traveling. My family was back in West Virginia, and we had received a credible death threat. Credible determined by the FBI. We received threats, death threats, quite a bit. And this time,
a trained Israeli propagandist. That's why she was in Israel. She was in Israel in high school, after college, in college, at Wall Street Journal, at New York Times. She is a trained Israeli propagandist, and that's what the Free Press is. And she was in the news lately because David Ellison, the son of Larry Ellison, bought her publication for $100 and some million and then made her the editor-in-chief of CBS. And now CBS is extremely pro-Israel. All their news reporting about Israel talks about how Hamas are terrorists and Israel's defending itself. And anyway, that's where this is coming from, just so you understand. And it's important to understand this for later in the story. So this Coleman Hughes, he's at Free Press. It's a pro-Israel propaganda outlet. And he does this video where he explains my strategy.
He had a good interview with...
and he says that when I'm on my show, I have one persona where I'm an extremist and a fanatic and I'm crazy and I'm hateful.
What he's talking about.
He says, and then I go on an interview and I act moderate and I pretend like I'm a moderate, sensible, reasonable person, and I act polite and I'm nice and all this. He says, and that's the conceit, is that I'm doing a charm offensive. I'm pretending to be a nice guy. And then when I become dictator of America, I'm going to take the mask off and become the second Hitler. And I said this to Piers Morgan. I said,
Piers,
you know, first of all, he's a propagandist. Second of all, I said, my show is entertainment. I do a monologue, and it's funny, and it's rambunctious, and it's provocative. I said, and then when I do an interview, I explain my views in a serious and persuasive way. I said, that's not dishonest. That's just, we speak in an indoor voice when we're inside. We speak in an outdoor voice when we're outside. We talk to our parents one way. We talk to our male friends another way. That's just basic communication. I said, but the last part, which is that I'm going to seize power and then become Hitler, I said, I don't even know where that comes from. That just sounds totally crazy. That just sounds like a weird, it sounds like a Hollywood script. Nick Fuentes becomes president, then there's another Holocaust. I said, I'm not even going to
go over to Rumble, please.
But he brought that up at the beginning of the interview. And the reason I say this is because in his mind, I think he thought that he was going to distill or break down the two personas. In his mind, all the other interviews, I'm being given softball questions and I'm being allowed to come across as reasonable. I'm being allowed to play the moderate and play the nice guy. And I'm doing this cynically, and the interviewer is letting me get away with it. And the public is getting this impression that I'm a really moderate guy. So in his mind, he's thinking, I'm going to play the clips from the show during the interview where he's trying to be the moderate. And he is going to have to deal with the contradiction of being a radical on the show, but attempting to appeal to a more moderate audience on my interview. So he starts out with the Coleman Hughes statement like this, and then he starts playing the clips. Okay, well, what about this from your show? What about that? And I'm sure he was expecting that if he's getting interviewed, Nick, that I'm going to try to wiggle my way out of that. I'm going to try and weasel my way out and say, oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, I don't know what I said. You know, I'm going to try and do something like that. And instead, I just said, yeah, no, I agree with that clip. And I agree with it completely. And that is what caught him off guard. And I think the biggest moment came when he said very early on, he said, so you're racist. Are you racist? And I said, yes, I am racist. Sure, I accept it. Call me a racist. And throughout the interview, I think once that happened, it was over. Because the entire purpose of the interview is to basically say the rhetoric on your show is racist. Do you know that? The rhetoric on your show is misogynistic. Do you know that? Do you deny that? And once I accepted it and said, yes, I'm racist, I'm misogynistic. Now what? Okay, I'm racist. I don't care. I'm not ashamed. I won't even deny it. Now what? Now what do you have to say? Okay, congratulations. You did it. He said on Twitter before, he said, we're going to give a proper examination of his views. And I knew what that meant. I knew what was coming. He said, you're racist, aren't you? Admit it. I'm like, yeah, I am. I am. Now what? And what about that? Now what? And he had nothing. And throughout the interview, he's restating it in new ways, restating it in novel ways over and over. But you see, you said you're racist earlier, but you see, you've conceded you're racist. Does the audience know?
Oh, man, what happened?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he is racist. And I said, congratulations. Congratulations, you've succeeded. Yes. And I don't know why you're so proud of yourself. I don't know why you're patting yourself on the back. This is something.
I don't know why it's not playing good.
I don't know why you're patting yourself on the back. And once I said that, it was over because he had nothing.
Carney.
There was no moral high ground. He couldn't shame me. And there was nothing substantive to say other than to point and sputter, you're a racist, you're misogynistic. And there's a lesson in this, which is that these words and these labels, and more than that, the shame, it only has as much power over you as you give it. Now, I understand that for normal people, there's a little more to the story, because if you get called racist, you could lose your job. You could be expelled from school. Your wife or your girlfriend might leave you. Your family might disown you. So for other people, there are complications. But for people like myself, and I consider myself an opinion maker, a tastemaker, a public intellectual, an influencer, whatever you want to say. I'm an ideas person. My job is in the realm of ideas. I don't have a regular employer. For someone like myself to say, that word doesn't have power over me, I don't care. You can call me that. Once that happens, it's like a spell is broken. And the rest of it followed suit. So that's in the first place. I also want to talk about that whole approach, because what was really interesting to me, and we could go over some of the greatest hits. I'm sure we'll hear about it in the super chats, but I'm assuming you've all seen it or you've seen the viral clips. What was interesting to me about the interview is that he seemed to think in the middle of it, before, during, and after the engagement, that he was winning. Because during the interview, he kept saying, well, the audience is going to judge. Well, the viewers at home will decide. Thinking in his mind that they're eating this up. that the audience at home is folding their arms and saying, what, he's done it.
They don't care.
Piers got him to admit he's racist. That's it. That's all we need to see. It's over. I don't need to hear anymore. He's racist, and that's all I needed to hear. That's it. And so during the interview, he kept falling back on this. Well, the audience can decide. It's sort of smugly. And even after the interview on Twitter is treating it like this was some grand victory. But if you looked at the comments, all the comments on Instagram, on X, on YouTube, they're all positive. People thought it was funny. People said I was logical. People said they found themselves agreeing with me. Or if they disagreed, they said they didn't find me all that extreme. They said that Piers was being dishonest and malicious. They said he's a liberal boomer. They said some of what he said was ridiculous, that he was angry. And I think there's sort of a corollary to this, which is I have been pushing this message for 10 years. And I have been dealing with hostile interviews like this for just as long. And I have been dealing with these clip shows for just as long too. At the end of the interview, he asked me how I thought it went. I said, you think you're the first one to do this? You thought this was a novel approach? You think this is the first time someone has played a clip out of context and asked me to explain it? I said, take a number and get to the back of the line. I've experienced this many times. And what's funny is in my niche internet community, and maybe more broadly, my generation, this engagement between Zoomers and Boomers, it's been happening. It happened. It happened years ago. And what I mean by that is
not just
maybe
online.
This is just reaching Piers Morgan now. But 5-6 years ago, people like me were saying to their parents and other edgelords on Twitter and other people, other intellectuals in private were saying to equally as confused boomers, yeah, I'm racist. I don't care. In other words, this is something that has already happened in the past tense. We have been in a post-racist conversation for years. It happened quietly. It happened privately. It happened among the younger generation. It happened on the internet. It happened years ago where people said, including myself and many other occasions, said, you know what, fine, we're racist. You can call me that. We don't care. We're comfortable with it. We want to have the conversation.
Oh, yeah, for
We're
sure.
not going to be held back by the labels and the shaming and the
watch the
grandstanding
interview?
and all the rest.
It's crazy.
And it's funny that it has taken so many years for that concept to travel to the legacy media where Piers Morgan is. He's just finding out now.
Beautiful.
This is maybe the first time he's encountered this.
Most comfortable boots
I have
I've
to
ever
believe
owned.
that because I go on his show at the end of 2025. It's almost 2026. And he's telling me, you're racist. Okay, I don't care. Well, it's over for you. The audience is going to hate that. And it's like, no, hate to break it to you. The audience is with me. And that's just it. That strategy of calling people racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, that had currency 10 years ago. That had power in 2015. Because in 2015, you could gesture to the audience and appeal to those sensibilities. And it would have been a knockout blow. If you could convince an audience
Tucker was
that
about a month
someone
ago,
is a racist,
or
or even if you make the charge that
yesterday.
somebody is a racist, if someone identifies as a racist, the audience is against you.
In 5 minutes.
And the person accusing you has the moral high ground. You could gesture to the audience and that would be enough. Oh, well, I've done it. You see here, I've accused him of being a racist. And that, like I said, that had a currency with most people a long time ago. But that isn't the case anymore. It was like that, but it's not anymore. Now it's the opposite. And what Piers and Tucker and the rest of them don't understand is that I am extremely popular. And I'm not extremely popular because the economy's bad. I hate to tell you that.
Explain why.
I hate to break it to you. They all want to tell the story that the only reason I'm
People
popular
agree
is
with what
because
you're
of
saying.
disaffected young white males can't enter the job market because housing prices are out of control. I'm extremely popular, and it ain't because of the job market. Okay? I became popular this year because this is the first year that I was completely uncensored.
Yep.
I became popular this year because in the intervening 3 or 4 years when I was censored, everybody got radicalized. Everybody got radicalized at home when they were locked down during the pandemic, and they watched the BLM riots, and they saw the lies from the mainstream media about the vaccine and about the virus itself, and they saw the Ukraine war, and they saw the Biden administration and what they attempted to foist on us, how they tried to jam that down our throats and tell us everything's okay. People in the past few years have gotten black fatigue, Israel fatigue, woke fatigue, everything you want to say. In the intervening 3 years, when I was banned, everybody caught up with me. Everybody got as radical as me, so that by the time I became uncensored, it was a match. By the time I became uncensored, there was a general public that had an appetite for it already. I maybe didn't even necessarily make them red-pilled. I didn't make them racist, sexist, the rest of it. They were those things. They had an appetite for those things. They had those feelings. They had those thoughts. And then I was allowed on Instagram, and I simply said them out loud. And for that, I became extremely popular this year. And again, not because they're mad about jobs, but because they see the behavior of black people in these cities after the George Floyd deconstruction of the police departments. It's social and cultural. They agree with what I say about that.
I have less
issue.
respect for Tucker after his
Because
comments from this interview.
Throughout 2023 and
Tucker built on this
2024,
dude.
we saw Israel committed genocide against Gaza, and we saw our Jewish-controlled media run cover for it. We saw one Jewish broadcaster from after another from various Jewish media conglomerates give totally biased coverage. People like Ben Shapiro that obviously care far more about Israel, all they could do was talk about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, while out of the other side of their mouth, they were saying, kill them all, there's no innocence, kill the children. That's why people like me. It's social and cultural. It's political. It's not because the economy's bad. It's not bitter, angry people with no jobs. It's a broad spectrum. It's white people and non-white people. It's men and women. It's young people and it's old people. It's broke people and it's rich people. Because everybody is seeing what is happening to the country because it's all online. It's all on TikTok. It's all on X. It's all on Instagram Reels.
We're heading over to
tired of it.
Rumble exclusive because it's
the
Nick.
mass migration, the black crime, the Israeli
Come over there and
control
just
over
say
our
hi. I'd
society,
appreciate
the
it.
Jewish oligarchs controlling our society. People are done. And what they like about me is I have the balls, or I am in a position because I've already been canceled that I can say these things openly with no shame, with no fear, articulately, because I've been talking about these things for years, and I say them without shame or reservation. That's why people like me. And what's funny is that Piers brings me on to expose that I have all those
I have
views
pretty much too.
in his mind to a
pick it up from
public
couple
that is
of,
ignorant of those
podcasters that I
things.
Trust.
But he's the ignorant
Bernie.
one. He doesn't know that the public agrees with me. He
I
doesn't
appreciate
know that
Pink.
there's nothing to expose. The clips he played on his show are clips that have gone mega viral many times over on Instagram and TikTok already. And they went viral because people retweeted them. They reshared them. They sent them in group chats and in private messages. And they laughed at those clips with their friends. And they said, this is hilarious. I agree. So what's the game? You're going to expose those clips went viral on Instagram because people agree. You're going to expose them to an audience that's seen them? For what purpose? They're going to not like what they agree with? It doesn't make any sense. And that's just it. In 2025, calling somebody those names, shaming people, guilting people over that kind of stuff, that no longer has currency. It has no power. Times have changed. People have changed. The country has changed. We have gone over the hill with wokeness. And what the fuck did you think that meant? Because Piers did too. Piers pushed LGBT on children's education. He pushed the COVID lockdown and the vax mandate. He pushed the Israeli genocide in Gaza. He now says he's anti-woke. Well, Piers, what did you think it meant to be anti-woke? Did you think it meant LGB without the T? Did you think it meant no Muslims in the UK, but Indians come on in and replace us? Did you think it meant there's only two genders, but men and women are definitely the same? And they're completely equal and there's no meaningful differences. What exactly did you think that meant? Everybody is sick of it. Everybody's tired of it. Everybody feels like I do. There's nothing there to expose. And you're not going to have a sympathetic audience, and you have no moral high ground. And without that, you have nothing. And I said this during the interview. I said, the reason you're losing to people like me, your generation's going out.
Bill, do you have a Rumble?
Boomer. The reason I'm popular and surging, and you don't get it, the reason my generation is the way it is, and the rest of it.
Look at the pinned comment.
I said it's because of the way that you belittle and talk about those issues. He had a little moment in there. We were talking about Hitler, and we'll get to that, and why genocide. He said, oh, you think poor white Christians are being replaced. You think those poor white Christians are being genocided.
They are.
Poor white Christians. I said, that tone. The tone throughout. Oh, so you're a dinosaur. You're a misogynist. Oh, blah. I said, that tone you're taking. The haughty, morally superior, liberal, woke tone. I said, that is the reason why you're losing. That is the reason why your opinions are becoming irrelevant. That's why everyone's laughing at you. Country's changed. So a lot of people said in the comments, they said, well, this is what happens when a boomer and a zoomer talk to each other. That is totally true. There's clearly a generational divide, but it's bigger than that. It's that the audience has completely changed. And that is the real victory, I think, because it is true that 10 years ago, had Piers done the shtick of, oh, okay, you're a misogynistic, sexist, racist, anti-Semite, people go, oh, yeah, well, he is. Yeah, that's really shameful. Oh, my heavens, you can't say that. Now everyone's rooting for that.
That's where I monetize, though.
And by the way, what's on Instagram, it's even worse than what I say.
I'll get you a free
I see clips of Gypsy Crusader. They get 300,000 likes on Instagram. 300,000 likes, millions of views.
Click on that link.
There are AI-translated Hitler speeches that go mega viral on TikTok and Instagram. The people are way past that sort of thing. On that note, I want to talk a little bit about Hitler because he got really hung up on Hitler. And he asked me, do I affirm the Holocaust? Do I think Hitler is cool? And he got all bent out of shape. He said, I don't think Hitler is really cool. I think he's really a monster. And he's the worst mass murderer and this, that, and the other. And, you know, he asked me, what is it about Hitler that's cool? And I said, well, the edits, these video edits of Hitler set to music. They show the parades, the military, the speeches, the charisma. And that's just true. That's why I think it's cool. But after the interview, I was thinking to myself, why is Hitler cool? Because he definitely is. And when I say cool, I'm not saying he's good. I'm not saying he's great or anything like that. I'm saying he's cool. Darth Vader is cool. Hitler is cool.
Darth Vader is cool as fuck.
He's cool. When you watch the videos, well, you sort of have to be cool. How do you win the absolute allegiance of a nation of millions if you're not cool? If you don't have an X quality? I don't think anyone would deny that he's a charismatic speaker, a visionary, imaginative, that sort of thing, whether for good or for bad. Most would say bad, of course. But he's certainly cool. And I was thinking, because I saw a lot of the edits after the interview, people took that clip where I said, well, the edits. And then they
shouldn't
spliced
be
it
your
with a Hitler
stronghold, dude.
edit, a hype edit where
Sorry to say
there's
this.
Euro pop music,
YouTube is
techno music blasting, and it's the tanks and it's the speeches. And I was thinking, what is it about Hitler that's cool? Why does
You're
it
watching
tickle?
me on YouTube, but
Because kids love Hitler.
they're gonna
Kids
cut this
love
out.
Hitler. Young men
They hate this
see
guy.
the edits. It's edgy.
Hey,
It's
Tiff.
transgressive. There's something that feels naughty and dark about it, but there's also something electrifying about it. There's something sort of interesting. And I was thinking to myself with introspection, why is it cool? And here's why. Why is Hitler cool? I'll tell you why very simply. Because what Hitler represents is if white people didn't give a fuck. That's what it represents. When you see Hitler, when you see the edits, when you see the vision, and what is the vision? The vision is grand architecture, beautiful fashion, an unstoppable military. You see white people without limits, without restraint. You see white people without the self-imposed guilt, the shame. When people see a Hitler edit and say, that's cool, they don't think about the Holocaust. There's nothing cool about killing people. I'll just go on the record and say that. There's nothing cool about killing people. There's nothing cool about exterminationist ideology. There's nothing cool about anything like that.
All right, Bill.
That's not why people are tickled by it. That's not why people are
Thank you for
electrified
coming. I
by
love
it.
you.
That's not part of the appeal.
You're good, dude. You're a good dude.
The appeal is not the weird pagan stuff that took place. The appeal is not the cruelty. The appeal is not the bigotry or the racial hatred. That's not the appeal. The appeal is that we have been living, and by we, I mean Americans, Westerners, white people, Christians, we are living in a time where all we know is self-imposed shame and guilt and self-hatred. Hating ourselves, hating our ancestors, having to apologize, rejecting the self, elevating and supporting the other, the racial and ethnic minority, the immigrant, the refugee, the someone of a different religion, the oppressed, the marginalized, the dysfunctional, whatever. And we have to feel sorry. We have to feel bad. We have to listen to HR representatives. We have to do environmental studies. We have to do studies about indigenous peoples. We have to do land acknowledgments. This is the society we've grown up in. We watch movies where we're the villains, TV shows where we're the villains, always. You watch Chicago PD,
Today?
Great show. Chicago PD, it's a show, it's a drama about police in Chicago. What do police in Chicago have to deal with every day? What in real life? Take a wild guess. What do Chicago police in real life have to deal with? They have to deal with black gangbangers. In the South Side, the West Side, the teen takeovers. They have to deal with the Latin Kings. They have to deal with Hispanic gang members. In the show, you would know that. It's always white people. And in the movies, the villain, always white people. In Star Wars, the new Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars, it's a ragtag group of Asians, blacks, Asians, Hispanics, women, I think I said Asians twice, against white supremacist men in the empire. It's a self-hatred, and it runs so deep. It's in our cultural language. It's embedded in it, and it's ubiquitous, and it's everywhere. And what people see in this transgressive narrative, what we're shamed about, is this idea, what if we took the chains off? What if whites, what if Europeans, what if Americans took the chains off of ourselves, which have been self-imposed? What if we make a decision to think freely, act freely, to do what is best for ourselves, to take care of ourselves, to be proud of ourselves, to be proud of our children, to be proud of our ancestors, to be proud of who we are? What if we did that? That is what is electrifying. That is what excites people. When people see the edits set to hyper pop music that are energetic, and they see grand displays, they see strength, they see glory, they see beauty, they see ambition, imagination, they see these things, And again, I understand that is not a perfect or even accurate representation of everything that was going on. It doesn't account for the atrocities. It doesn't account for the cruelty.
Have any of you guys tried the winter edition?
But to celebrate for a moment,
dude, it's fucking delicious.
The forward-thinking nature of those things, the optimism,
Fuji
the
apple
pride,
and ginger. Oof.
It gives people a kick because we're so used to the exact opposite.
Yeah,
That's the appeal. What it represents is, what if we went hard as fuck? That's what Hitler represents. What if white people went hard as fuck and we didn't have to pander? We didn't have to pander. We didn't have to make excuses. We didn't have to apologize. We didn't have to do all these rituals, humiliation rituals that we have to do. It wasn't refugees welcome. It wasn't we're so sorry. It wasn't the original sin of slavery. It wasn't our ancestors were evil. It wasn't, well, we're trying to be better and we're doing the work and we acknowledge we're on stolen land. It was, what if, fuck it, we're going hard. That's what it represents. And that's why
what every other
young
country
people
does.
are drawn to that. And I don't think that people should make that. I don't think that people like Piers should make that a
Except
sticking
for
point.
Canada.
I think that's a big mistake. Because if you make that a shit test, disavow Hitler, you have to say Hitler isn't cool. He said, you need to listen to this old Jewish guy. You have to listen to Finkelstein or whatever. You have to listen to this guy talk about his mom and
check
dad.
in the morning when I wake
People
up.
are going to say, you know what? We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear another guest. I don't want to hear another foreigner, because that's all it is. That's what American history is. It's Columbus killed the natives, then we enslaved the blacks, then Hitler killed the Jews. Then we were racist, and we're all pieces of shit, and we should all hate ourselves. And that's why we need to bring on the immigrants, because we deserve it, because we shouldn't exist, and we're all terrible. And if you're telling us that we have to repudiate, oh, you have to say Hitler's not cool, you can never make jokes, and you can never say anything, and you need to feel shame, and you need to make me feel your shame. You need to mean it when you're ashamed. People are going to say, fuck you. Fuck off. I don't want to hear Ben Shapiro talk about the Holocaust. Fuck you. Go home. I'm not going to feel sorry. I'm not going to feel bad. And you want to know why? And everyone understands this. Our country is going to shit.
You didn't even go to Rumble. I didn't even say a single thing in Rumble, Pink.
Bigger than all of this, it's a very simple idea. The simplest, most fundamental form of the idea behind all of it.
You got to chat for me to know you're there.
Everything is going to shit. We all know the way things used to be. We all know the way it used to be because we've seen the videos. And it's like a portal to another universe. You see these videos of LA, Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, New York, San Francisco in the 1950s, the 1940s.
It's in
and we see what it was like. And we see what we could have had.
Jump in there and say hi.
It's
I'm about to go over there exclusively because
everyone knows
YouTube isn't going to put up Nick
things have gotten worse, and we know exactly why. Because in 1968, MLK Jr. got shot, and race riots destroyed all those cities. Detroit was the Paris of the Midwest. Now it's a fucking dump.
There you go.
Then, after all the cities got turned into a dump and the whites fled, then they poured the immigrants in. And then for 50 years, we were subjected to wave after wave, unrelenting of immigrants that we did not desire, that are not making our country better. And that doesn't mean that they're horrible people. We don't need to say they're bad people, but they're people that are not improving the country. We all know that the types of things that we had qualitatively are different. I'll give you an example from the city of Chicago. My great uncle used to run security at Marshall Fields. Marshall Fields was a flagship department store in Chicago. It was basically like a World Heritage Site. And every Christmas, they put up elaborate decorations and a tree and window displays.
All right, everybody on YouTube, we're heading over to Rumble exclusively.
When they went there, it was a big deal to go Christmas shopping at
This can
Marshall
only last so
Fields.
long on YouTube.
That's a time when people
They won't
cared.
put up with Nick Fuente
That's
for
a
too
time
long.
when people
They'll shut
cared
me
about
down.
the customer and the quality of the experience, and there was a real
Click on
commons,
pin comment
a real sense of
or the pin
pride
chat.
in our public gatherings,
Love you
our
guys.
public spaces.
Please come over.
And it was a big
I
deal.
appreciate it.
People got dressed up and they went downtown like it was an event, and they looked at the beautiful decorations and
Love
they
you guys.
shopped. My great uncle ran security there, my great uncle Tony. And now you go to these stores and people are getting shot. There's no decorations. Nobody gives
John,
a
what
shit.
up?
It's a free for